Facebook Live, the old internet, you're going to love it. We're back on rolling again. So again, thanks everybody. We are on York Talk, everything sales and business. And you know what? The best thing about this is sometimes the internet sucks and it breaks up. But at the end of the day, guess what? We can go back on the 4G and away we go. Hey, but you know what? It's really interesting. We had there's an article on news.com only 2 days ago, which was speaking about is retail dead? You know, is retail, are the sales going to drop? You know, and if you're listening to this over in the States, or you're listening to this to somewhere, let's fix that one up there. If you're listening to this, you know, in the UK or whatever, you know, Amazon's just about to come into Australia. So there's an article saying, you know, is retail dead? And the article went on to talk about this lady and her husband went into a shop to buy a pair of boots. It was on news.com. You can go back. I think it's still in the news.com feed. And I spoke about, you know, they walked in there and the sales assistant stood behind the counter, didn't really even acknowledge that they'd walked in. You know, then the husband said, I can we have a pair of socks so my wife can try the boots on? And the answer was no. And at the end of the day, they walked out not making a purchase and they went online and purchased the pair of boots. And then the last line of the article, which I thought was, you know, really, to me was really imperative within this article, it spoke about, you know what, you know, simply because no one is selling. You know, it's really funny. So what we want to talk about today is, you know what, if you're in retail sales or in sales in general, there's some common things which we really need to look at within ourselves, because at the end of the day, retail isn't dead. You know, online sales is just an alternative. There's always been alternatives in life. You know, if they don't go to one shop, there's another competitor. You know, you go back to the 70s, 80s, 90s, etc. There's always competition. This is just another form of competition. And all it is making people, there's different avenues for people to purchase something. You know, so, you know, just because it's online or direct sales doesn't make any difference at all. We're still in the game of sales. So what I want to cover today are a few points if you're in sales that we need to always keep in mind, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're always hitting our targets. We're doing the best that we can do. We want to make sure their mind's in the right place. We want to make sure, you know, that we're hitting the KPIs. We want to have care for our clients. You know, we want to make the experience for our clients something that they really love and they're going to come back to us on a weekly, daily. They're going to tell their friends about, you know. So there's some really important things about retail. And to me, you know, when I read that line in that article, is retail dead? It's not even close to dead. Retail will be here forever and ever. You know, there's just different methods that people purchase. So let's cover a few bits and pieces. You know, that if you get a chance to jump onto news.com.au, it doesn't matter where you are, have a read the article, because you know what, it's pretty enlightening, especially with so much competition out there. And so I just want to say thanks to Ruth Bears. I want to say thanks to Will on Instagram Live, putting in a message there. Appreciate it, mate. So first one is, you know, here's the thing. Whether you're in direct sales, whether you're in high-end sales, it doesn't matter, right? It's really easy to get wrapped up into your targets, into your KPI. So we're coming to the last couple of weeks of the second quarter of the year. Thanks for that comment. Appreciate it. You know, we're getting to the real ends of the second quarter, and it's really easy to get wrapped up into your targets, into your KPIs. You know, what's the boss going to say? But here's the thing. So many people get so distracted with their KPIs, and they get so distracted with their numbers and that bit of paper, they actually lose focus of actually how they get that result. You know, so if you read that article, the clients walked into the retail store and the lady was standing behind the computer, and we've all been there. We've all walked into a store and that person's tapping away on the computer at the reception. They don't even really give you eye contact. At the end of the day, the way that you're going to make that KPI and the way that you're going to make that target is by that customer. So we need to make sure that we acknowledge, we need to make sure we do that work before the clients walk in the door. You know, I always come back to the 6 P's, you know, prior preparation prevents piss poor performance, right? So we need to have that preparation before we even open the door. So when we get those clients who come in, you know, we can have that care, we can acknowledge them, we can service them, we can give them that experience that is needed to keep that retail alive, to keep that store alive. So, you know, at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we understand where our targets are. We understand what, you know, the organisation wants of me as an individual and a performance. But we then need to make sure once that door opens, the way to get to that target is through that client and giving them that experience. So therefore we can, you know, we can hit our targets and make that money. You know, so at the end of the day, we need to make sure the targets are imperative, because that gives us confidence. You know, sometimes, you know, those targets give us the drive, but we can't take that away from the person in front of us. So get away from that tailgate, get away from the register, greet that person walking in the door, especially when we're talking about that retail sense at the moment. The second one is, and it pisses me off knowing, you go say, you're at a barbie or you meet someone the first time and it's like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm in retail. Oh, so you're in sales? No, I'm not in sales. What a load of shit. You're in sales. So if you're in retail, guess what? You live and die by your numbers. If you don't make those sales, your organisation is going to go backwards and potentially you could be out of a job. So understand that you're in sales. Understand, how you hit your KPIs. It drives me nowhere when you speak to someone that's, look, I'm not in sales. So what do? I'm in retail. Come on, let's just face facts of where it is. So therefore we know how to educate ourselves. We know where we need to go moving forward. We know how to target the KPIs. So let's make sure first and foremost, we understand the role that we play in the big picture. So next time you're at a barbie and one of your mates or you meet someone for the first time, they're in retail or whatever they do, and they say they're not in sales, say to them, what a load of shit, you're in sales, because you had targets, you got KPIs, you met the hit. let's just call a spade, because I reckon that's a lot of fun. The third one is, and this one here, when you speak to a lot of people, is the biggest turnoff. How many times have you walked into a store and that sales agent has looked you up and down? They're sort of giving you the once over, are you worthy in this store? They prejudge you, or you see them prejudging someone else. At the end of the day, we as sales agents, or we as retail agents, or we whatever, as soon as we prejudge someone, then we've lost the game. We don't know how this person is going to react when we treat them with care, respect, we give them a great experience. We don't know how many friends they're going to tell. We don't know that unless we play the course out. But as soon as I look someone up and down and I start to prejudge whether or not they're going to buy or not buy my product, I've lost the game. So that, we've all been in that experience when we've walked into a store and they've sat there and they have looked us up and down. They have sat there and prejudged whether or not we are going to purchase something or not. So one of the biggest areas we need to understand is as soon as we prejudge, we are not going to hit our targets, because that person that walked in the door could have been my KPI for that day. Yet I prejudge that person that they're not going to purchase. So therefore, what's going to happen? What we manifest is what's going to happen. The second thing that can happen as well, sometimes you get to the stage where you prejudge that they are going to buy, so you miss the sales steps. You miss the warm up, or you miss their dominant buying motive, and you skip the sales process, and they get to the end of the day, buy as much as maybe that they should have. So sometimes it can work either way. We need to go through our sales process. We need to do the sales process 100% of the time on 100% of the people. So make sure we don't prejudge. And, prejudging sometimes with the positive can be just as tough as prejudging for the negative. I don't know which way I'd rather go, but let's make sure we don't prejudge to the negative. If we are thinking that, geez, I've got this sale, this is my order, this is my KPI for the day, make sure we follow the steps, because as soon as we miss some of those steps, then we're going to lose the average transaction size. So that's the third one there. We need to make sure we don't prejudge. And when you walk in, have a look at how that sales agent looks you up and down, because they're prejudging you. It's really quite, you can have a bit of a game when you go with a friend or a family member. Have a bit of a game with it, because it's pretty fun. The fourth thing is, and this one's really easy, but sometimes we lose sight of this in the big picture because of the fact that we're so consumed with KPIs. You've got the executive team who sit up in their corporate office, and they put all these numbers on paper for their retail assistants that they've got to hit these targets. Sundays are busier than a Monday, so they've got to hit a higher target on the Sunday, etc. And they look at things really in a numbers capacity, and then that flows down the hill. And sometimes we just lose that care factor. We need to care for the clients. We need to care for our product. We need to care for the brand. We need to care for ourselves, because at the end of the day, we've got our own, we've got our own KPIs, but we've also got our own integrity that we need to fulfill. So we need to care for our clients. So sometimes we need to make sure, if we go back to the very first point, which is, don't get consumed by the numbers. If we sell every day and we put 100% in, your target's going to hit. We know that, right? Because then we actually have the time to be able to care for our clients and care for the product and understand and get that product knowledge. So, we need to just sit back and take a breath every now and again so we can get that care factor in there. Because sometimes when everything's spinning so fast, that care factor is the first thing that loses out because everyone's in a rush. So we need to make sure we have that preparation, so therefore we can get that care factor. So therefore that's going to help with our selling process. The fifth thing is, and this one to me is about your goals and your mind. You know, stop treating the career that you have as a job, as a wage. You know, you look at, you know, and I'll come back to the article about is retail dead, for example, right? And you walk into a lot of retail stores and the staff there are just going through the motions, you know. You know, they're treating it as a job, as a filler, you know. It's not their career, you know, but at the end of the day, it's all stepping stones in the part of life, you know. There's all stepping stones and learning curves, and what are you learning out of this role to fulfill and to make this next career or whatever you're doing moving forward. So you can't sit there and just treat what you do as a job. You're not going in there just to pick up the hourly check, because at the end of the day, if you're just going in there to pick up the hourly check, get out of the way and let someone else have that role. You know, I always find it really funny when you hear about organisations and they maybe let go of a couple of staff members. You know, but those staff members only 2 weeks prior or 3 weeks prior were complaining about their role. Oh, I hate the hours I have. I hate the boss. I hate the product. Right? We've all heard this before, yeah? And then as soon as they're maybe put on a warning or they're let go, oh, it's my favourite job. The hours were great. You know, they didn't sit there and they didn't really take the opportunity that was in front of them. You know, but as soon as it was taken away from them, you know, the company is the worst in the world. You know, so at the end of the day, let's make sure we go in and we take the opportunities every day, because we never know when it's going to actually lead us to. You know, and if you have someone who's bitching and moaning and carrying on about their role, tell them to shut up. And if they don't like it, get out and go and give that to someone else. You know, don't sit there and complain about it. Go and get another job. Give that opportunity to someone else who's going to fulfill that role, and do it with the care and enthusiasm that the respect is taken there. You know, so it's pretty cool. The next one is, you know what? How about be interested? Be interested in your clients. Be interested in the people walking through. Be interested in the organisation, their goals. Be interested in the products that they're developing, the R&D. You know, but also be interesting. You know, how many times are you going into a retail sense? Because today's about, is retail dead, right? How many times are you going into a store and the person that you're talking to is the most boring, it's the most boring conversation, batshit dead conversation that you could have, right? You've got to be interesting as well. Why? You know, you've got to make it an entire experience, you know, to keep retail alive. So you need to be interested in the clients. You need to ask questions that keep you interested, but you also need to be interesting at the same time. You know, it's one of the things, you know, information, confirmation. They give the information, confirm. You know, be interested in what they do, but also be interesting. You know, do things outside of work that are interesting, that you can relate them to people, and they're going to be interested in you at the same time. Don't be one of those just boring as hell people going through the motions, looking at the targets, because what's going to happen at the end of the day? It ain't going to be fun for anyone, is it? And then this next one here I think is really important. There's a massive gap. There's a gap between what people feel they're giving as an experience and the experience that the clients get. And there's a big gap between what is what people think they're giving and what people are getting. So the clients are saying they want this experience. They want, you know, they want to have personalized service. You know, they want to make sure that the company's service levels are high. They want follow-up. You know, the amount of service clients want these days is really high. You go into an organization, you're trying to say, okay, what's your service levels like? They feel that they're giving a high standard. But the research shows that that is nowhere near the case. There's a massive gap between the expectation levels of the clients and what is actually given. And we need to start to bridge that gap. We need to bring the service levels up, so therefore it matches the expectations of your clients. And this is the reason why, and it goes in the next step, which I'm talking about, why people shop online. Because the experience that they're getting isn't up to the standard, and it's easier for them to go online and just go and purchase something at their own time. So we need to make sure we bridge that gap, because what that does, it brings people back into the retail sense. It brings people back in their doors. You know, the word of mouth starts to be really created, and the word of mouth brings people into that store. So that gap is really critical. And the gap, as I was saying, it's about what we think as, you know, staff members and employees, that what we're giving is actually incorrect. It's actually a lot lower than what we actually believe it is. And the gap is really large between what the clients expect. So we need to bridge that gap. We need to bring it back to a closer level, because then the clients and the customers and the retail is going to start to flourish from there. And then the last one, which is kind of brings in from that 7th point. Let's stop making it easy for people to purchase online. People purchase online because of the fact that they don't get the service levels, or they don't get the experience that they need. We did the York Talk only a few weeks ago, and we spoke about the customer experience model, or the customer experience in the future is going to be far more important than product and price. So we need to make sure, and we need to stop making it easy for clients to purchase online. So we need to make sure that the experiences that the clients receive are second to none. We need to make sure that it's really enjoyable for the consumers to come into the store and have a great time and purchase. We need to make it easy for them to say yes and give us the money at the same time as well. We need to make sure that we have a great referral program, so we start to drive traffic into the retail stores. We need to do whatever we need to do, right? Do whatever it takes to bring the clients into the store. Because what we don't want to do is make it easy for people to purchase online. We want them to go, let's go down the store because we had so much fun. So let's go down there and have another look to see whether or not we want to purchase that product or service. Let's make it fun. Let's make it exciting. Let's make it enjoyable. Let's make sure that people remember the brand that you're working for. So let's make it hard for people to purchase online. And here's the thing: retail's always going to be there. It's never going to go away. Online is really taking over and taking some market share. So we need, as retail, if you want it, you got to take it back. So come back to the nuts and bolts of today's York Talk. Jump online and have a look at the article in news.com.au. Simply because no one is selling them. If you're in retail, you're in sales. Don't sit there and say, I'm just a retail assistant. You're a sales assistant. You've got targets, KPIs. So let's just do a quick recap. So we spoke about people worrying too much about their targets, and they're forgetting that the customer is actually the way that they make their targets. They think that they're in retail. Guess what? You're in sales. So make sure we understand that, so we can go and educate ourselves and we can get better. Stop prejudging. That's one of the biggest things. Stop looking your clients up and down when they walk in. Prejudging is going to be one of the biggest killers of anyone's target stats, and it's going to start to reduce their confidence levels. It's a killer. Prejudging is an absolute killer. We need to start to care for people. The 6 P's: prepare ourselves right so we actually have the time so we can care for the people. Stop treating your career like a job. Stop walking in and just taking the hourly check. Let's get in and make a difference. When you start to make a difference, opportunities arise from there anyway. We need to make sure we're interested, but also interesting. Just keep the same. Be interested and be interesting. And then let's start to bridge that gap between what the clients expect and what they get. Let's bridge that gap, so therefore we create that experience. And the last one, stop making it easy for people to shop online. So this is the York Talk for today. York Talk, everything sales and business. I want to thank, we've had so many comments here on Facebook. I think we've had even comments on Instagram Live. I'll quickly have a look before we shut these down. But again, my name is Wes York. I want everyone to have an absolute cracking week. I want everyone to get out there and have enthusiasm, have fun, enjoy, get those KPIs, get those referrals. If you don't have a career right now, get out there and get a job. There's that many jobs out there. Let's have some fun doing it today. So my name is Wes York. This is York Talk, everything sales and business. And we'll see you again next week to do exactly the same thing. If you've got anything that you want to cover, make sure you send me a direct message. Send us an email. We'll have a look at it through our planning session, and hopefully one of your sessions will be on here soon. So again, everyone have an absolute cracking week, and thanks for listening, and make sure you share it and like it, and let's make this absolute smash it all around the world. Thanks everyone, have a good one.